So before I get started today, I have a couple of kind of unrelated items. First, I have a couple of shout outs. One to Brandon and his kids here in Cheyenne, who I understand are big fans, and to Neil and his granddaughter Sage in Illinois. I know Sage is a big fan and often asks to listen to the podcast in the car. So thank you guys for being regular listeners. I'm really glad you guys are enjoying the podcast. Second of all, I need to apologize to Caleb for not naming a spider after him. Sorry, man, but my cat-faced orb weavers were both girls, and Katerina's first gentleman's caller's name was Theodore. I mean, that was just his name. I don't know what to tell you. But I promise the next time I'm naming some random wild critter around the house, Caleb is going to be at the top of the list. All right, and with that taken care of, let's get into today's episode. It's spooky season, feral friends and fellow nature nerds. So today, by special request, or special suggestion at least, I'm going to talk about some of the spiders that you might find inside of your house. Now, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Most people react to spiders with fear and revulsion, and kind of like other things that people fear, their first instinct is, unfortunately, to kill it quickly and decisively. And if you don't believe me, share a picture of a spider that you found in your house on any social media platform, and I can almost guarantee you that at least one person, and I'll be surprised if it's only one, will say something along the lines of moving or just burning your house down. But I've got bad news for you if you're a spider hater. Unless you live in Antarctica, which, as far as I know, nobody has ever listened to this podcast from Antarctica, there's probably a spider within 10 feet of you right now, in your car, in your house, wherever you are right now. Again, unless you're actually in Antarctica. So, as long as you're surrounded by spiders, you might as well get to know them a little better, am I right? I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, and this is the Dispatches from the Forest podcast. Now, I talked about spiders way back in episode 7, and in that episode I covered things like spider anatomy, spider webs, and the two medically significant spiders that we have here in North America, which can both show up in your house if you live in their range, the black widow and the brown recluse. So I'm just going to say right up front that I'm not covering those things again in this episode. Now, since it's fall here in the northern hemisphere and the nights are getting colder, and while some spiders might make their way into your house, spiders do not, as people often think when they find one inside this time of year, come in because they're seeking warmth. Now, orb weavers, those spiders that spin the classic round spider webs, are rarely found inside, and with good reason. They feed primarily on flying insects. Their primary food source is, I hope, not plentiful inside your home. And if your house is full of the kind of things that get caught in an orb weaver's web, the spider is the least of your worries. Adult spiders that overwinter, and not all of them overwinter. Some, like my cat-faced orb weavers, only live through the summer. But those that do overwinter have ways to do just that, make it through the winter. They've been doing it for millions of years. It's not a case of, if you're cold, they're cold, bring them inside. They shelter under logs or rocks or other crevices or under leaf litter, so consider this your annual permission to not rake leaves. Some spin cocoon-like shelters to help protect themselves, and as the temperature starts to drop, their bodies start to produce a type of antifreeze. They go into diapause and they emerge in the spring. So, what are they doing in your house then? Well, the same thing they do outside your house, looking for something to eat and or a compatible spider to reproduce with. How'd they get there? Well, they were just going about their spidery business and for whatever reason, random chance, accidentally hitching a ride, looking for prey, whatever, they end up in your house. Sure, they might creep you out, but honestly, they don't mean you any harm. So let's start with one of the most commonly encountered spiders in your house, the cellar spider. Cellar spiders belong to a family of spiders called Pholcidae, which includes at least 1,800 individual species. In addition to cellar spiders, they're sometimes referred to as skull spiders for reasons I can't explain. Vibrating spiders, for reasons I can explain, and I will in just a minute. House spiders, because, well, they're often found in your house. Or daddy longlegs, or some derivative of daddy longlegs, like daddy longlegger or long daddy, for reasons that are pretty obvious once you see them. But the name daddy longlegs is also often used to refer to harvestmen, which you might recall are not spiders, although they are arachnids. And in some regions, it's also used to refer to crane flies. So we're going to stick with the common name cellar spiders. But the reason the long-legged moniker is used in some places for these spiders is because they have extremely long, thin legs. They can be distinguished from other long-legged spiders by the arrangement of their eyes, if you care to get close enough to look them in the eye. Pholcidae have two groups of 3 eyes each, arranged roughly like the top corners of a square. Many, but not all species have a pair of small eyes in between these two groups, so some have 8 eyes, some have 6. A cellar spider's abdomen is usually relatively narrow and cylindrical in shape. And cellar spiders aren't very big. The body length of even the largest species is under half an inch, or around 11 millimeters. Outside of your house, cellar spiders construct their webs in dark, damp recesses, like caves, under rocks or loose bark, and in abandoned mammal burrows. Inside of your house, they look for similar places: high corners, attics, and, of course, basements or cellars, hence the common name cellar spider. The webs they make are messy and irregular, what we would refer to as cobwebs, and the spider hangs upside down in the web. Now, the web of a cellar spider has no adhesive properties. It's not made of sticky silk like an orb weaver might use. Instead, it relies on the irregular structure of the web to trap prey. When a cellar spider detects prey in its web, the spider quickly wraps the prey with silk. Sometimes they eat it right away, sometimes they store it for later. But when they're done eating, they clean the web by unhooking the remains of the prey and letting the carcass drop from the web. I guess messy and irregular doesn't have to mean dirty and cluttered. Now, of course, it's not a surprise that they eat insects. Most spiders do. Usually whatever's around to get caught in their web. But some species of cellar spider invade the webs of other spiders and eat the host's eggs, or the host captured prey, or all of the above. In some cases, the cellar spider intentionally vibrates the web of their victim, mimicking the struggle of trapped prey to lure the host closer. I mean, maybe that's the reason for the name skull spider, because they're the pirates of the spider world. In some places, this predilection for arachnopiracy might actually be beneficial for humans by keeping populations of medically significant spider species in check. But vibrating the web of a potential victim isn't why they're sometimes called vibrating spiders. Instead, it's because of the way some species respond to a potential threat. When threatened, some species of cellar spider respond by vibrating rapidly in a gyrating motion in its web. The spider can oscillate in tune with the elasticity of the web, causing an oscillation greater than the motion of the spider's legs. Now, there's several possible reasons for this behavior. First, the movement may make it difficult for a predator to locate or grab the spider. Or it may be a signal to an assumed rival to leave. Vibrating might also increase the chances of capturing insects that just brushed the web but didn't get caught and are still hovering nearby. Or it might help further entangle prey that might otherwise have been able to free itself. But if the spider continues to be disturbed, it usually will retreat into a corner or drop from the web to escape. Now, just like with harvestmen, cellar spiders have been the subject of the urban legend that they have some of the most potent venom of any spider, but their fangs are either too small or too weak to puncture human skin. And just like the harvestmen, this is entirely untrue. Now, with harvestmen, it's untrue because they don't have either venom or fangs. But with cellar spiders, they're capable of biting humans, even though they usually don't, but their venom is not medically significant. Now, this idea probably stems from the fact that they sometimes prey on medically significant spiders. The assumption being that if cellar spiders can kill a spider capable of delivering dangerous bites to humans, then clearly it must be more venomous, and the only possible explanation is that its fangs are too small and weak to penetrate human skin. In reality, cellar spiders can cast lengths of silk onto its prey, incapacitating them from a safe distance. Now, in case you're not convinced, in 2004, Discovery Channel's Mythbusters addressed this very claim. Host Adam Savage inserted his hand into a container with several cellar spiders and reported that he felt a bite which produced a mild, short-lived burning sensation. They confirmed that the bite did in fact penetrate his skin, but did not cause any other notable harm. And not only that, but recent research has shown that the venom of cellar spiders is relatively weak even when it comes to its effect on insects. So here's the way I look at it. How much time do I actually spend in the dark recesses of the basement or attic? Not much. So why should I care if the cellar spiders are living there? They're helping take care of things that I might not want there even more. Now, in addition to cellar spiders, there's about 10 other types of spiders that often fall under the generic term house spiders. And I want to tell you a little more about just a couple of these species. One is the yellow sac spider. There's actually 214 species of yellow sac spider, but only 2 in North America. And those 2 are thought to have been introduced accidentally when settlers came over from Europe. Yellow sac spiders are pale in color and range in size from about 1/4 of an inch to a whopping 1/3 of an inch, 5 to 10 millimeters. Their 2 front legs are longer than the rest. They have black feet, and they have something called a heart mark, a darker mark or line that runs halfway down the middle of the abdomen. And again, if you want to get close enough to gaze deeply into their eyes, you'll see they have 8 equal-sized eyes arranged in 2 lines of 4. Now, yellow sac spiders don't catch prey by spinning webs. They're active nocturnal hunters, stalking and ambushing their prey. They do, however, spin sleep sacs, a silk tube or sac where they sleep during the day, clearly how they got their name. Outside, these sacs are found under sticks, logs, or in rolled up leaves, and this is also incidentally how they get through the winter. But inside, you might spot these sleep sacs in hard-to-reach places, like high up where the wall meets the ceiling, behind pictures, or around windows. Basically, out-of-the-way places where they won't be disturbed in the daytime. There are a couple of misconceptions about yellow sac spiders. It used to be thought that their venom caused necrosis, tissue death, in humans. But while a bite from a yellow sac spider can be a little bit painful or itchy, there's no evidence that it's otherwise medically significant. The other big misconception about yellow sac spiders is that they're attracted to the smell of gasoline. In 2011, Mazda issued a recall on some of their cars because of several incidents in which yellow sac spiders built their sleep sacs in the fuel lines, leading to a risk of fuel blockage, cracked lines, and fires. The idea that the spiders were attracted to the smell of gasoline gained a lot of traction, but research determined that it was the hose, by virtue of being a perfect size for the spider to shelter in, and not the smell of gasoline that was attracting the spiders. Interestingly, the researchers that did this also noted that it was only younger juvenile spiders that were attracted to these hoses. Older spiders weren't for unknown reasons. Okay, one last spider that might turn up in your house that I want to tell you about. The domestic house spider, also known as the barn funnel weaver. Again, these are not very big spiders, with body lengths that range between 1/4 and 1/2 an inch, or 6 to 11 millimeters. They're typically dark orange or brown, with striped legs and 2 dull black longitudinal stripes on the cephalothorax. The abdomen also has a pattern of chevrons running lengthwise across the top. Barn funnel weavers are active and agile hunters, relying on both their vision and speed in addition to distinctive webs to catch prey. 6 of their 8 eyes face forward, allowing them to detect movement and focus on prey items. These spiders are also photosensitive, moving toward or fleeing from the light depending on the situation. Now, barn funnel weavers are very precise in their movements. They move in short bursts and then stop to decide where to head next. And as you might expect, barn funnel weavers build a funnel-shaped web. I know, shocking given their name, right? It consists of a multitude of silk threads spun over a flat surface with a funnel-like structure reaching back into a corner or other sheltered area. The spider then sits at the back of the funnel waiting for prey to get caught in the web. When prey gets caught, the vibrations alert the spider, and the spider rushes out to attack the prey, dragging it to the back of the funnel to consume. A funnel weaver's web can get pretty big if undisturbed. In Virginia, I didn't find any of these spiders inside the house, but I did see a lot of webs in the woods that were nearly a foot in diameter at the widest part of the funnel and probably equally as deep. Barn funnel weavers are not particularly defensive, and if threatened, their first inclination is to retreat into their web. As long as the web is undisturbed, the spider will usually just fall back into the funnel tip and stop responding to any movement. If the web is attacked and damaged or destroyed, the spider will either attempt to flee or it may curl up into a ball against the wall or other nearby object and remain still to try and escape detection. Barn funnel weavers rarely bite, and if they do, it's in self-defense, and the bite is unlikely to even break the skin. So there you have it, 3 species of spider that you might find in your house. Remember that they don't want anything to do with you. They're trying to help you get rid of other bugs in your house. So either wish them well and leave them be, or if it's not too cold yet, gently move them outside. Now, if you want to support the podcast, you can do that in several ways. First, consider becoming a patron. Subscriptions start at just $5 a month, a pittance. You can find all the information at patreon.com/dispatches from the forest. You can make a one-time donation through PayPal or send me an email using the same email address. And that address is dispatchesfromtheforest@gmail.com. And of course, you can buy some merch. Check out all the offerings at cafepress.com/shop/dispatches from the forest, then click on products. Finally, you can tell everybody you know to give the podcast a listen. I know I picked up at least 1 subscriber that way this past week, so welcome to the podcast, Travis. For additional content, follow Dispatches from the Forest on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, reminding you to go outside and get dirty. The Dispatches from the Forest podcast is a production of Dispatches from the Forest and may not be used or rebroadcast whole or in part without express written permission.